It's weird. I've been handling the mic all day, but when it's my turn to speak, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of nervous now. You guys had a good day? Learned a lot? Overwhelmed? Taking tomorrow off or going to Home Depot and Lowe's tomorrow to start building all your stuff? Hopefully that. No, you're going to make 4 or 5 trips, right? That's kind of the part of homesteading is you get a Lowe's quick checkout because you're going to be there a lot. I have been super excited to host you guys here. This has been an amazing experience for me. I hope it's been an amazing experience for you. I'm going to close out not lightly. We're going to go deep into what's going on with our kids. My talk is titled Raising Healthy Kids in an Unhealthy World. As Kyle said, my name is Dr. Chris Boman. I've been Chris to you all day, but right now I'm Dr. Chris. I'm the founder of Trailhead Family Chiropractic. I graduated in 2015, started an office locally, and then moved into my own practice in 2018. I have my diplomat in chiropractic, pediatrics, and pregnancy, and special populations or special needs. I dedicate my clinic life to helping families discover better health without being dependent on the medical system, learning to heal without drugs and without surgeries. And I have been appalled at what the medical system has done to our pregnant moms, to our special needs kids, to our kids in general, what they're getting away with, the things that they're telling them, encouraging a lifestyle of fear. And that's what I am against. I'm not against medical recommendations. I'm against people making decisions for medicine out of the state of fear. So hopefully tonight you're going to be leaving better equipped to make better health decisions, to realize that you can change your health. You don't have to be dependent on the medical system, that you have lots of different resources in a community and now knowledge on how to grow your own food and the benefits of what your own food brings. I myself am a homesteader, amateur at best. I have a family. My wife, Jessica, you met her. Little Abel's been hanging out with us all day. And then my 2 kids, the one in the, she'll kill me. I think that's Anna. The Anna dress right here is Emmy, and then the other one is Rosie. We are First Fruits Homestead in Wildemar. We started our farm with COVID. We bought 2 pigs, and we said if we don't like farming, we'll go ahead and eat them and be done with it. But my wife had always been gardening. Everything was dying, though, growing it around our house, whether it was the squirrels, the heat, or the roly-polies. And as you heard, how many of you attended the gardening workshop? Amazing, right? Didn't they do such a good job? I'm so stoked to hear about her experience and talk about that later today as well. And so we decided, you know what? I don't want to put masks on my kids. I don't want to go spend my money at places that are encouraging this lifestyle of fear. And so we're going to go ahead and just get busy on our own property. I guess not even my property, but the in-laws property that we live on. And they agreed, yeah, this is the right thing to do, because who knows what's going to happen with the food chain? Who knows what's going to happen to our access to food? And we not only want to be prepared for us, but we want to be an asset to our community around us. And so we started with the garden. We got a whole bunch of raised beds built. We had our pigs in our little pig pen. We trained them to electric fence. We started moving them around a little bit. And then tragedy struck. A German Shepherd got out from the property above us and mauled one of our pigs. We were not prepared to butcher. We had no idea what to do. We thought she was going to survive. I think she probably just had a heart attack running around so much and passed away during the night. And so we were left with our Penny the pig. I didn't put a picture of her in there, and she won our hearts over. There's no way that we were gonna eat her after rescuing her and going through that experience. And she was our first animal big animal to give birth on the farm. On Mother's Day, she gave us 8 piglets. We decided that we needed another sow, and we wanted to make pigs kind of a central part of what we do on our farm. And so we have now 12 red wattles that were born as well. How many of you learned about pig castration? Yeah, I just did 20 of those in the past month. It was absolutely amazing experience. It's the worst. But I love homesteading, and I love it not just for what it can provide for my family from a harvest perspective, but the lifestyle that it gives us. How many of you are in it for the lifestyle as well as the harvest? Okay, I hope by the end that all of you are raising your hands. Maybe you're just lazy, I don't know. But I hope that by the end of this talk, you are able to enjoy the lifestyle of homesteading rather than just the product of homesteading. What I want to do first is zoom out, because our nation has a problem. We're going to get some perspective. Kids, all kids age 0 to 17, there's over 6 million of them on psychiatric medications, whether that's for anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, and any other neurological disorder. In the United States, more than 40% of school-aged children and adolescents have at least one chronic health condition. 60% of adults live with one, and 40% live with two chronic conditions or more. The prevalence of obesity in kids was 19.7%, and adults, 41.7 or something like that. Estimated number of children diagnosed with ADHD is 9.4. It sounds low, but that's basically 1 in 10. During the 2013 to 2014, 19.8 of our children and adolescents used at least one prescription medication. When we're looking at chronic disease is a lifestyle disease. You don't acquire it from somebody giving it to you. I can't sneeze and give you a chronic disease, right? Chronic disease is made up of a lineage, whether it's our parents were farmers exposed to glyphosate, or they're painters exposed to lead paint, or they're drinking, bad water, so you have lead in your system, all the way down to the stuff that we choose to put into our bodies now. 90% of the nation's $4.1 trillion spent in healthcare costs are for people with chronic and mental health condition. To put that in perspective, once again, we could pay to solve world thirst, meaning we could dig wells for all the people that don't have water and that are dying of dehydration, world hunger, and American homelessness with the amount that U.S. spends on treating chronic disease. I don't know about you, but when I was putting this together, that made me feel very selfish, right? If we could solve basically the top 3 worst problems that we have with the amount that we spend, maybe not those of us in this room, but the people addicted to the SAD diet, on our lifestyle choices. We choose to eat those, the burgers or the soda or all these things that are contributing to disease that we then are privileged to spend money on or have insurance companies spend money on so that we can continue to perpetuate the same unhealthy lifestyle. Meanwhile, there's people in third world countries and there's people here in our city that are dying of hunger, that are dying of malnutrition, and that are dying of thirst. I don't know about you, but that lights a fire in my belly, right? I'm sure you can tell. And this is why I love being a chiropractor, because not only do I help people with their spines and with their nervous system, but I get to give them education on, now we got you healthy. We got you to a baseline. Now here's what you can do to continue to be healthy. But even more, here's how you can equip your kids to be healthy. Here's how you can equip your neighbors to be healthy. So instead of adopting this mindset of building health rather than preventing disease, our government, our politics, our big pharma is invested into continuing to cover up the problems, as Rob said this morning. There are more than 20,000 prescription drugs that are approved for marketing. About 66% of U.S. adults take prescription drugs. Data suggests that among those who take prescription medications, the average number of medications taken is 4. Because you have high blood pressure, so you take your statin. You also have high cholesterol, so you get your cholesterol med, right? And that starts to mess with your tummy, so you start to get a laxative, which that starts to mess with your absorption, so you start to get malnourished, and so you start to get fatigued, and then you start to get anxiety, and then you start to get depression, and then you can't sleep well. And what started in the beginning as I have high blood pressure because I'm stressed or because I'm eating foods that are contributing to my high blood pressure, we're 4 or 5 medications away now from what is health. Can you guys resonate with this? Do you know people like this? Yeah, I'm not alone? Okay. Roughly 65% of medically important antibiotics currently sold in the U.S. are for food animal production. Cattle and swine production together consume about 44% more of these drugs than does human medicine. Why is this a problem? Because the same mindset that we have in our medical system is also influencing the way that we produce our food. If we don't have healthy food, can we have a healthy body? No, right? Most of the time, these antibiotics are fed to herds or flocks of cattle, pigs, turkeys, and other animals, whether or not they are sick, to compensate for risk created by the industrial conditions in which these animals are raised. So instead of thinking, when we put 40,000 pigs in one place, when we put 100,000 chickens in one place and they get sick, if we give them this medication, they won't appear sick. These pigs won't appear sick. But are they healthy? It may seem like semantics, but you can be medicated and not appear sick, but really not be healthy, right? So talking about homesteading, What is it like to grow your own food? Why do we do this? Number one reason I have influenced people into homesteading, which has been many in my practice, is that I realized when I ate better food, I felt better. Weird, right? And it's really interesting. I promise I have great relationships with a lot of medical doctors in the area. I'm not bashing them, I'm bashing the system. I believe that they got into the system to help people, but because of insurance, red tape, pay, their corporate structure, whatever it is, they have been boxed and cornered into a place where they can't provide true, good medical care. And some of them have just been in the system for so long that they forget, or they've never been exposed to a nutrition class, right? Like Rob was saying, of 4,000 hours of PA school, how many did he say? Like 20 hours. That's not even a percentage, right? And here we are telling people to eat better and exercise more. And so they say, what does that mean? And we're like, I don't know. Made a Gatorade Zero instead of a full sugar Gatorade. Right? Maybe a microwave meal with broccoli rather than just pizza. Or maybe pizza with vegetables rather than just pepperoni pizza. Okay? If they aren't aware of what healthy foods can help people, then the only option for them is medication. And here's the funny thing for me. When I start talking with these medical doctors, I'm saying, don't eat this instead. Maybe don't, if you like the bubbles in your drink, don't eat or drink soda, try kombucha. Or try something that's a little bit healthier for you, right? And they wonder, well, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to change somebody's health. And so I asked them, when you put alcohol into your body, does it affect the way you think? Yeah. Why? Because it gets absorbed and it changes your neurotransmitters, right? So why can't the stuff that you put into your body, healthy food, influence the way that you think, influence the way that you digest, influence the way that you create neurotransmitters, influence that we create all these things that we need to live optimally healthy lives, right? So the second reason people start to homestead is my wife made me do it. How many are there? There it is. Perfect. And we were okay with it because we had to go buy power tools, right? I know when we were building our raised beds, I got to get a nail gun. I got to get a circular saw. Yes, I know the names of these things. I know how to use them reasonably well. But eventually, when we see our kids picking off the tomato and eating it, but they wouldn't eat the mac and cheese or they wouldn't eat their dinner. How many of your kids have 4 snack stomachs and 0 meal stomachs? Everybody, right? So we'll feed them dinner at the dinner table. The wine complain, blah, blah, blah. Well, my wife will make homemade chicken hot pie, as my kid calls it, with, the carrots, all that stuff in there. Like, I don't want to eat it. And then we'll go out in the garden and they'll eat the exact same ingredients that were in the chicken pot pie. If they can pull it from the garden, then it's good, right? And so we know as fathers, that was like a $20 tomato. But for some reason, it feels good. Right? Because we know that the food that they're eating is actually going to be nourishing their bodies. It's actually going to be preventing disease and building health, right? So here's what I'm inviting you into tonight. Here's the major underlying theme. We need to stop worrying about preventing disease and start investing into the processes that build health. Can we all agree to that? That doesn't mean that we just buy healthy food, right? What does process mean? That means you're on the journey, right? You can't buy health. I'm sorry to tell you. You can biohack. You can buy all these healthy foods. You can buy all the supplements. I promise you, somebody that comes to my office, they're most likely deficient in vitamin D. I tell them to buy it. They do because we have it on the shelf. And I'll ask them a week later, how's it going? Still on the shelf, unopened. I'm like, well, bring it back and let me give it to somebody else that would actually use it, right? You can't buy health. You have to be mentally committed to the paradigm of being invested into the process of building health. And there's nothing more real than that, than homesteading, right? How many of you are excited to start your garden? How many of you are okay with half your crops not making it the first time around? Okay, it's going to happen. And what we learned is that we actually need to start growing 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 times the amount that we think we need, because we know the part of it's for the squirrels, part of it's for the sun, part of it is for my kids picking it right off the plant, part of it is for storing for later. How good was that processing or canning and preserving workshop? She did an amazing job, right? And then part of it we put right on our dinner table. But then part of it as well, the process of building health is living the abundance mindset. So we do what with it? We give it. We share it, right? And so that's part of the process of building health is it's not about what do I need. That's sympathetic. We'll talk about this in a minute. That's sympathetic, fight or flight driven thinking. I'm going to cover my needs and my needs alone rather than I'm going to let nature have some, right? It's biblical. They didn't harvest their whole field. They left some for the gleaning for the people that couldn't afford it, right? There's people in your community right now. If you're privileged enough to grow food in your backyard, there's people that are starving. And I say starving, they're filling their bellies up, but they're eating rice and beans. Their kids are suffering with ear infections and asthma and allergies, and their teeth are getting cavities because they're not having the nutrients filling up their body to sustain life in a healthy way so they can live their optimal life, okay? So if we're going to start talking about investing into the processes of health, what I want you to do right now is I want you to close your eyes. I'm not going to take anything from you, I promise. Imagine you woke up tomorrow, and however you get your news, hopefully not only on Facebook, but Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to see it. CNN would never put any of these news lines up there, but 2/3 of families, survey says, grow their own produce. Communities to plant food trees instead of ornamentals. Monsanto files bankruptcy and closes business. Commercial farms turn to regenerative practices. Medical schools mandate at least 1 year of nutrition and alternative health classes. Rise in community co-ops worries supermarket giants. Finally, pharmaceutical companies no longer allowed to market direct to consumer. How many of you think that if any one of those headlines were true, we would naturally be a healthier person? Why? None of that said Joe is buying tomatoes more than he ever has. Right? Why do those things naturally lead us to be healthier? Because the process of some of those things going away, seed that has to be sprayed, families that have to buy their own food rather than growing it themselves, people going into their doctor saying, I have these symptoms. I saw on the TV that this drug might help me. Can you prescribe it to me? And I have pity on the doctors because what are they supposed to do at that point? Like, I have an inflammatory disease. I heard, this drug can help me with that. Can you prescribe it? And the doctor's like, well, have some fish oil and vitamin D and you'll be better. Too much work. This commercial was great. There's people fishing and that's what I want to do, right? No other country, well, maybe there's a couple other, but very few countries allow pharmaceutical companies to direct market to the consumer, let alone marketing to the doctor. How many of you have said Facebook is listening to me because you can be having it, probably all of y'all tomorrow are going to have all these feeds about raw farms and all that stuff. I guess they don't market, so they're maybe not. But you're thinking about something and then the next day or the next hour it starts to pop up. Yeah? Happens, right? And so if we start thinking about investing into the processes of health, if that's just part of our conversation, if we only can buy good food, our health will naturally get better. The next one. However, the number one reason people stop homesteading, it's a money pit. Right? That's a $20 tomato. I planted all my crops and it's all gone. Those are some very expensive squirrels running around in my backyard. Right? But this mindset is only okay if we're only thinking about the harvest. If we're only thinking about what can we get. And so what we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about, hopefully not too quickly, is the benefits of homesteading as it relates to raising healthy kids in our unhealthy world, the benefits that go beyond the harvest. Okay? You guys ready? Seatbelts buckled? Cool. Raising healthy kids on the homestead. How many of you guys learned to plant today? It's okay. Everybody starts somewhere. Randy said he didn't plant his first seed till 54, right? So it's okay. We're a little ahead of that game, I think, for some of us, right? What do you do when you plant a seed? Do you plant it in the air? Where do you plant it? In the ground, okay? Unless you're wearing gloves, which I recommend you don't do. What are you touching? What lives in the dirt? Worms, yeah, you got fungus, you got all these things that are composed of bacteria. How many of you, when you hear bacteria, think, I don't want any of that? If you've watched mainstream news the past 2 or 3 years, you would, right? Because virus bad, germ bad, all these things bad. However, did you know that we are more bacteria than we are human? You have more bacterial cells on your skin, in your eyes, all around you than you do organelles. You like creeped out now? Go 4 showers tonight? But we need bacteria because you can't digest all the food that you put in you with just your enzymes. Bacteria make serotonin. How many of you know what serotonin is? Serotonin is your mood stabilizer. If you don't have the bacteria to make serotonin, how is your mood going to be? Terrible. Bacteria make vitamin K. If you don't have vitamin K and you get cut, what's going to happen? You're not going to live very long, right? Bacteria are really, really important. Now, there's 2 worlds. You have good bacteria and you have bacteria that cause problems. If the good bacteria outnumber the bad bacteria, can the bad bacteria cause problems? No, right? It's a healthy, competitive ecosystem. And so what you get when you're raising kids on the homestead and they're helping you plant is they're not only getting the healthy food that they eat, they're exposing their bodies to the microbiome in the soil, on the seed, with each other, on the wood, and everything else they touch. And what do? Do kids eat dirt? So it not only gets exposed to their skin, one form of absorption, but it goes in their mouth, it goes on their face. We found way more dirt than I'd ever like to admit in my kids' diapers. Am I alone? Please say no. Okay, perfect. When my kids sometimes have a runny nose and their hands are all muddy and they go like this, they start to develop dirt mustaches. It's one of my favorite things that my kids develop, the dirt and the milk mustache. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Can you go back, Kayla? So when you have you're exposed to bacteria, and not just one type, okay? Because I promise you, especially if you're working with compost, you can have healthy kefir water or kombucha or any of those things, but one handful of that compost probably has thousands of more various strains of bacteria than that one kombucha had. Not that you want to eat that handful of compost, but the exposure is what's important, right? So when you have a healthy microbiome, you're going to develop a robust digestive system. And as Aaron said earlier, 60 to 80% of your immune cells are in your digestive system. So if your digestive system is healthy, guess what's also going to be working right? Your immune system. What are allergies and asthma? An autoimmune. That's an immune system not working the way it's supposed to. It's an overactive histamine reaction, more inflammation than your body needs because it doesn't quite know how to react to what's going on around it. Right? So raising healthy kids on a homestead gives you a diverse microbiome, a robust digestive system, and a responsive immune system. As Brent kind of talked about earlier on, raising healthy kids on a homestead develops emotional intelligence and adaptability, okay? Because how many of you have had your kids with you when you're butchering a chicken? Or when there's a pig butcher going on, or a cow butcher? Or how many of you, your kids have planted a seed, it sprouts, and you go out to check it the next day, and a rabbit's ate it down, or the roly-polies are all over it, or you see this strawberry or this plum or this peach that looks amazing. It's like, man, one more day would just make it perfect. And you go out there to gather it together and it's gone. You learn how to adapt to the highs and the lows. You learn to experience a diverse environment of emotion, a diverse ecosystem of emotion rather than just flatline. How was your day at school? Good. What'd you learn? This. And then you do the homework, then you TV, and then go to bed, right? Or these kids are addicted to Call of Duty and Halo. I know Halo's old, that's dating me. But all these other things where it's people shooting each other, okay? Like Brent said, if a kid is going with a knife like this to butcher a chicken, they're probably not emotionally intelligent because taking a life is important, right? And so having a life on a homestead develops emotional intelligence and adaptability so that when you tell them no, they don't throw a fit in a tantrum for an hour in the store. When they're told no later on, or a political decision goes the way that or doesn't go the way they want it to go, they're not going to have a fit, right? We're going to be able to adapt. We're going to be able to have a healthy reaction, which leads to, this is my point, healthy interaction, healthy communication. You and I can have different and opposing views, but still have a great relationship and grow rather than just attack and be divisive. How many of you think they're trying to divide us up top? right? But if we are emotionally healthy, adaptable, and intelligent, we can overcome that divisive nature and come as one and advance humanity rather than just tear it down, right? And then finally, physical hardiness. Falling from trees, getting splinters. We don't like splinters in our house. That's PTSD right there. Lifting heavy things, right? All these things are developing physical hardiness. Physical hardiness means that you're able to adapt to various environments around you, and you don't need as much medication because your body is naturally moving and flowing the way it's supposed to, right? So physical hardiness on the homestead, that's probably the most given one. So in my opinion, raising kids on a homestead, I'm going to go over a couple minutes. Is that okay with you guys? Okay. Raising kids on a homestead leads to, in my opinion, what are the two keys to health? And these are probably different than what you've heard before. The two keys to health, in my opinion, variability and adaptability. Here's why. Next slide. Chronic stressors, whether tangible or programmed, and I'll go into this in a minute, causes the body to crave predictability, activating binary or reactive neurological behavior. So a tangible stressor, emotional, work environment, things that are physically stressful. You're golfing all day, you're working out and you have an injury. All these things are physical stressors. Or programmed. These kids that are being born C-section, these kids that are being induced early, these kids that are given medicines that they might, that might cause trauma, these kids that are being taken away from their parents and put in the NICU. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's hurtful, right? All of these are stressors that program the mind to stay in a constant state of stress. That becomes their natural, okay? You have a part in your brain called the amygdala. This is your fear center. This is reactive. Meaning, if I saw somebody walk in, with a gun might not be too weird at this conference, but normally, if I saw somebody with a gun, I'm gonna be like, okay, what do I need to do? I don't have time to think. I'm just gonna react in any way that is going to ensure my survival, right? I don't care about the stuff in my stomach. I don't care about my surroundings. I don't care what I'm eating in that moment. All I am worried about is what I need to survive right then and there, right? That is binary thinking. That is a reactive state. That is the state of scarcity. The symptoms of chronic stressors causing programmed state of fight or flight is a lack of judgment or rational decision-making, aversion to change in routine or decision-making, such as saying no, behavioral issues, focus issues, anxiety, scarcity mindset. In other words, I'm going to put you down so that way I can look better. How many of you know someone with any of those symptoms? How many of you know that they're going to the doctor and they're getting a medication to cover up the root cause, right? It makes sense when you put it in that way, right? So when you have a craving for predictability and you're always reactive because you have no room for adaptability, or you have no room for variability, that lack of variability, that lack of extrasensory input limits the body's capacity to adapt. When you have a low capacity to adapt, you start to develop symptoms. Symptoms are messages to your consciousness that something's not working. Don't keep doing what you're doing, or something worse is going to happen. If you get a flat tire, your thing pops up on your dashboard and you keep going, what's going to happen? You're going to be running on your rim, right? If you keep going, what's going to happen in addition to a forest fire? Everything is going to start to fall apart, right? That symptom, that check engine light, that check tire light was warning you that if you don't stop and take care of this now, something worse is going to happen in the future. That's what a symptom is. So the symptoms of a lack of variability are chronic inflammation, allergies, asthma, ear infections, IBS, colic, reflux, headaches, chronic fatigue, constipation, eczema, high blood pressure, etc. So is a medication going to fix a lack of variability? It's going to perpetuate it, right? Because now you can continue to do the same darn thing that made you sick and take a medication to continue to perpetuate that process, right? Let's go ahead, Kayla. Life on the homestead exposes your body to daily, sometimes hourly variability, building up your ability to proactively adapt. Okay, no joke. I was writing this. I got about halfway through. I was on my couch. I got up to stretch, and I looked behind me, and my calf was out of the fence. I had to immediately react. I didn't take time to stretch and get ready for my 100-meter dash, right? It's I immediately got to go. Jess, the calf is out. Do something with the baby. I think she just held it. And we ran around the house and found a way to get the calf back in. And then I go to casually check the pigs, and they're spilling their water all over the place. So life on the homestead is constantly causing you to adapt. right? Which is giving you constant variability emotionally, physically, chemically. I can't tell you how many times we get poop on ourselves throughout the day, whether it's the pig bowl, stepping in it when we're not stepping in poop when we're milking, but all the different sources of bacteria that we're getting exposed to throughout the day is a natural part of homestead life. If you're not homesteading, you have to find a way to get that extra microbiome, right? Let's go digging for an hour. Let's go to the gym for an hour. Let's do all of those things become extra parts of your life rather than a natural part of your lifestyle. Does that make sense? Can you go back one? But what if you or your kid's capacity to adapt to this lifestyle is so limited that you can't even start? Because I sympathize. Some of you are like, dude, you're talking about doing all these things, but I can't even lift a water bucket to water my plants. Or I'm so allergic to hay, or I'm so allergic to the environment that I can't even be out in the outdoors very often. I recognize that that's true for some of you. Whether it's an enlightening, you've had an awareness that now, man, the lifestyle choices that I've been making has been leading up to this, but how do I start? Sometimes the answer isn't go buy 40 chickens and a cow and a pig and see if your body can keep up. Okay, we want to practice good animal stewardship. How good was that workshop? And Kyle and pork rind, right? So how to raise healthy kids. In the beginning, start with what you can tolerate. Sometimes maybe that's a vertical gardening. It's a great way to do it. You can put a drip system right on top so you don't even have to water it every day. You can start with something like aquaponics where you don't even have to use dirt or soil or anything like that. You just hook up an aquaponics system. You can buy one to put it right on it's a little bit more pricey, but you can put it right on your kitchen table. Grow your little veggies or strawberries, something like that with the betta fish. We did that in our apartment. Cardboard and I don't remember what we grew with it, but it was awesome. Start with what you can tolerate and adopt this new health paradigm of building health rather than disease, okay? You thought I was done, I got way more. How can you build health outside the homestead? Eat healthy foods, but what does that mean? The medical doctors tell us the same thing, right? In my opinion, avoid inflammatory foods such as sugar, high fructose corn syrup, aspartame, processed and bleached flours, food dyes, conventional or commercial proteins like milk, meat, eggs, and genetically modified organisms. I have a whole talk on this stuff. I'm sorry I can't go into it tonight, but all of those things are contributing to disease rather than building health. It's better to skip that meal than it is to constantly put it into your body. We agree there? You guys cool? Okay. How can you build health outside the homestead? You can go to the gym, you can take a walk, you can park further away from the grocery store, you can take the stairs or the escalator rather than the elevator. On the homestead, it's pretty easy. These are your tools. These are your gym tools, right? You guys can read that? Am I in the way? One that I would add in there is a post hole digger. That is your all-in-one right there. Yeah? Okay. And employ a healthcare team congruent with your goals and desires. If the medical doctor isn't giving you what you need, your PA, your NP, whatever it is, isn't helping you get closer to your goals, there are people out there are health professionals out there that are ready and willing and excited for you to walk through their door. People such as a chiropractor. I'll talk about that in a second. Homeopath, a naturopath, physical therapist, acupuncturist, functional nutritionist, midwives, massage therapist. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, and there's others out there too, but make sure that you are hiring people. We talked about if you can't grow your own food, vote with your dollar, right? Buy foods from people that would grow it the way you would. Okay? So invest your money into these people that practice the way that you want to express and live your life. In my opinion, if you can only choose one, there's a great profession out there called chiropractic, okay? But what I want to prove to you, and these are just my last couple of slides, the power of chiropractic on improving adaptability. The importance of improving adaptability is it'll allow you to experience more variability, therefore optimal life, okay? Let me prove it to you. Everybody close your eyes again. I want you to put your arm out in front of you, put it above you, put it to your side without hitting your neighbor, or hit him if you're tired of him. Perfect. Okay, open your eyes. How did you know what was up, what was down, what was left, what was right? Just knew, right? Or you can pick the first word on up there. Proprioception. How many of you have heard of this word before? Okay, so proprioception is your brain's ability to know where your body is in space. It's our sixth sense, okay? It's very important. In fact, there's some studies that show proprioception, or your brain's ability to know where the body is and what the body's doing. Because if I walk up to here, I have a sense knowing that if I keep going, something's going to change, right? That proprioception may be the dominant source of information going to the brain, okay? Proprioception is picked up by many different sensors. You have soft touch, you have vibration, you have stretch, you have compression. Those are all receptors. They're in your muscles and in your joints, okay? The most concentrated source of this vital piece of information that's going to the brain is in your spine. And the most concentrated source of these receptors is in your upper cervical spine, okay? So this is the two for here. When a baby comes out via C-section, vacuum, or forceps, they're getting trauma to the upper cervical spine, which means that it's not moving the way it's supposed to. Their head will get stuck. If their brain isn't receiving all the sensory information that it's supposed to from those proprioceptors, the default state for that baby from day one is fight or flight or stress. Okay? Which leads to a lack of adaptability. So maybe they're reacting to mom's breast milk, so they get colic, or they can't sleep, or their head's turned one way, and so they're uncomfortable and crying all the time, okay? Now, double this. Not only is there a trauma to the upper cervical spine causing inflammation, causing, that state of stress, but they have one very special nerve that starts right at the base of the skull called your vagus nerve, okay? Your vagus nerve tells the body to calm down. When there's stress around it, do you think the body wants to be calm? No, so it's going to disable the vagal nerve. The vagal nerve isn't going to work the way it's supposed to, which means that the only information our insides are getting from our endocrine neurotransmitter organs to our digestive system is stress, stress, stress. Whose digestive system works well in stress? None. Right? What hormones are you transmitting or are you producing in times of stress? Cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine. Are those good for sleeping? Are those good for anxiety? Are those good for depression? Those constant insults cause a change in the way the brain functions. Remember, I told you your amygdala is activated, right? That's your reactive, your fear center. If your amygdala is activated, your prefrontal cortex is turned off. This is the source of rational decision-making, optimal judgment, and motor control. And finally, what we found that when the brain is constantly stressed, it's going to be consuming more sugar, right? That's how you burn fuel in order to get where you're going faster, right? So what happened, kind of going back up the way? We had somebody come in, not my office, this is research. We had somebody come in that was in pain. We did we did a functional MRI to measure where their brain was firing and brain metabolism. We did an adjustment. They said, wow, my pain's pretty much gone. We did another functional MRI. Sugar consumption of the brain was down, which means that we took the brain from a state of stress into a state of ease. The area around the amygdala went dim, and the area around the prefrontal cortex went up, which means what? Better decision-making, better motor control, more rational decision-making, right? Which means that if these areas are active, there's also research that shows heart rate variability, which is HRV. The more your heart rate can change, the more adaptable you are, which means less stress that you're in. And the more movement that you get, which is what the adjustment is, the better proprioception you have, which means the more information the brain's getting, which means more at ease the body is. And ultimately, when you're at ease, you're able to react and adapt. Does that make sense? If you're able to react and adapt, that means you have the capacity to live life on the homestead, because when a calf gets out, you can take off and sprint. Right? Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. When a pig gets out, you can take off and sprint. I've wrestled my pig before. I lost. I wrestled my bull before. I also lost. But I did it without getting hurt, mostly. Okay? Thank you so much for letting me share my passion. I hope this was helpful. I know it was taking information from a fire hose. I'll find some way for you guys to get this information so you can watch it over and over again and digest and also share. If you like information about this, you can follow my Instagram for my chiropractic page. It's Trailhead Chiro. My personal page is Dr. Chris Boman. Our Instagram page for our farm is First Fruits Homestead. I want to send a very special thank you to our sponsors that donated cheese, sponsor prizes, our shirts, our totes, our gift bags. We couldn't have done this without them. I want to thank our volunteers. I think we have a gaggle of them, about 10 or so. It's been an amazing experience putting this on for you guys. We already can't wait for next year. How many of you excited for next year already? We're going to go bigger and better, of course. Once again, thank you so much for coming.